Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Recipe Redemption. Now, a little while ago, I saw an episode of Binging with Babish, where he invited one of the cast from the US version of The Office, and I don't remember the actor's name or the character's name, or really anything. I haven't had enough coffee today. Anyway, I never watched the show, so I don't even know the guy. Apparently he's a bigger guy, and he was known, his character was known for the foods that he brought that were sometimes innovative and sometimes just kind of questionable. And during the episode, if I recall correctly, they made rice pudding together, which is fine. I like rice pudding. Particularly like the Swedish version that has the raspberry preserves that are served with it. But during the episode, while they were making it, Babish, real name Andrew Reyes, made the statement that the rice pudding is basically a dessert chili. And I said, it's not even you could call it dessert risotto. I'll give you that, because it's rice and it's thickened, and you add cream to it. It's actually thickened with the cream, but anyway, so you could call rice pudding kind of a dessert risotto, sort of. But chili, if you're going to have a dessert chili, we need to talk about how you define the word chili. Now, for real chili aficionados, chili is a meat stew with Southwest spices. It's a very American thing. Um, Purists will say no beans whatsoever, but it's meat of some sort. They'll allow that it doesn't have to be beef, because they're a pork chili, like a chili Colorado is actually quite good. And if you must, turkey or chicken, sure. Um, I don't know if anyone's ever done a lamb chili, but that might be kind of good too. But anyway, it is a meat stew. It definitely has multiple components, um, slightly different textures in there, especially if you have the beans. So you have the meat, you have your aromatic vegetables in a typically tomato sauce. You could have a green. I think green is still tomatillo, but anyway. But it's a stew, and it's got multiple components to it, so it's not this sort of homogeneous um, mix like rice pudding is, where every bite you get exactly the same thing. So, to my mind, that's what chili is. It's a stew of some sort. Now, a dessert chili, you might have to change a few things, but I got to thinking about it. Like, okay, a not necessarily meaty stew, because meat as the primary component of a dessert dish, I'm not sure if that really works. But if we pull back on the meat portion of it and focus on and do a chili with beans, could you do a dessert version of that? And I thought to myself, sure. If you use adzuki beans. Now, adzuki beans are a small red bean. They're about the size of a lentil, really, that should cook fairly quickly. And when you add a fat and a good bit of sugar to it, to cooked adzuki beans and mash them up, it makes the red bean paste that you'll see in a lot of Asian desserts. It's sweet, it's starchy, and has a certain sort of pasty mouthfeel to it um, that you kind of come to expect in a lot of Asian desserts. And so I thought, okay, if we make a chili with some sort of meat, something, and adzuki beans, sweetened, you could come close to something like a dessert chili. And especially if you replace the aromatic vegetables with fruits, um, might make for something interesting anyway. So, figured let's give it a shot.
I figured we should start infusing flavors into this right from the very beginning. So into 5 cups of simmering water here, I have a cup of brown sugar, about a half a teaspoon of kosher salt, a tablespoon of cinnamon, about a teaspoon of chili powder, about a half a teaspoon of 5 spice, and here I'm adding 1 cup of dry adzuki beans. I could have soaked these ahead of time, but I didn't want to. Bring this up to a boil and then drop it to a simmer. And once it's simmering, I'm also adding 4 strips worth of bacon that I've chopped up into little pieces, along with all of the rendered fat after cooking them down. So I've got the fat, I've got the sugar, got the adzuki beans. This is sort of the classic combination for red bean paste. After simmering for 45 minutes, which I'm told the adzuki beans would be tender by now, I add a cup of various mixed fruits. In this I have shredded sweetened coconut, some pineapple chunks that I've chopped up into small bits, and some dried cranberries. Brought this back up to a simmer and simmered for a while longer, and I'll discuss that more in detail in a little bit. But after it was all done and the adzuki beans were finally soft, this is what it looks like. It's not particularly pretty, but it's made a little bit better with some shaved white chocolate to simulate cheese.
And here we are. It's not pretty, um, but then, is a bowl of chili pretty? I don't know. So I will say, this does not put a whole lot of starch or anything, so this could use with some sort of thickener so it's not quite so brothy, um, or soupy, I should say. And the instructions that I got for adzuki beans said that if I simmered them for 45 minutes, that they would be nice and tender. So I did. I simmered them for 45 minutes. And they weren't rock hard, but they were definitely not what I would consider tender by my definition of the word. So I kept simmering for another 45 minutes. And they still weren't tender. They were still quite chewy. Um, it's like, if you have, bulgur wheat or something that's been just par cooked and then thrown onto a salad. It has that kind of a chew to it. And it wasn't necessarily pleasant in a dessert, especially when all the dried fruits that I added had already softened up, and these were these still kind of super al dente little nuggets. So I continued simmering it, checking in on it in 20-minute increments, and after 2.5 hours of simmering, it's finally to the point where the adzuki beans are starting to actually soften and break down a little bit, and they're not chewy anymore. So let's see how this final product ended up. Surprisingly, the pineapple is still in discrete chunks. I figured after having been in here and simmering for a total of, the pineapple was in there for an hour and a half. So I'm surprised it's actually in one piece. The coconut might have been a misstep. It's definitely skewing the flavor, um, and it's still, discrete pieces. So there are little filamenty bits in there, but it sort of simulates chopped onion in a regular chili. The flavor is not bad, coconut notwithstanding. I will say the adzuki beans, even though they're breaking down all of the skins from the beans, still offer a bit of resistance. And the beans themselves, usually they're mashed into a paste. So as they're breaking down here, they're becoming kind of, I won't say gritty, but let's just say the recipe needs a little work. It's not bad. The white chocolate disappears entirely. So it was more of a visual representation thing. It kind of melted into the chili by the time I got it to the table here. So it's not bad. It's still a little bit too starchy for the texture to feel like dessert. I don't. It's hard to explain, but it's grittier than I would want, or I should say, just more fibrous than I want, which is not surprising. These adzuki beans are actually an excellent source of fiber, both soluble and non-soluble. It's probably not as nutritious as it would be if I had stopped at the 45-minute mark, but it's more edible, or at least more pleasant to eat in its current state. So it needs work, but maybe this is a good opportunity to pass this back to Mr. Reyes. Babish, Mr. Reyes, sir. Your assertion that rice pudding is kind of like a dessert chili rubbed me the wrong way, set me on this path. I don't think I'm quite all the way there, but perhaps with your resources, you might be able to produce a more pleasing dessert chili. And so I submit to you that that is something worthy of your attention. And as for the rest of you, my dear viewers, what do you think? Do you think that there's a way that a dessert chili could be done other than the way that I did it? Please leave your ideas in the comments below, and maybe I'll post a follow-up video. I have the smallest bag of adzuki beans that I could find on the internet was a 3-pound bag, and as you can see, I only used 1 cup for this recipe, so I have plenty more to try this again. However, Chris doesn't like red beans, these adzuki beans and the red bean paste. So I don't know when I'm going to be making this again, since I would only be making it for myself. But that being said, I'm open to it, and we'll see. And like I said, I'm open to your ideas. So if you've got any ideas of how I can improve this, I would welcome them in the comments below. And as always, like and subscribe and share with your friends. And I'd like to thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption. Bye now.